The story begins with introducing the main characters, the blonde guy, Xiao Gu, and the girl Zhao Jiesun. She asked Xiao Gu to wait here for a while. They stood in front of the gate of a luxurious house. Zhao Jiesun explained that her second uncle's family did not like Xiao Gu. Xiao Gu suggested that we think about some other options, because they are unlikely to give a loan. Zhao Jiesun said that if she and Xiao Gu came to take the money, they should bear the burden, to which Xiao Gu replied that they were no longer his equal. He quickly apologized for his words and looked at the girl with annoyance. Zhao Jiesun said sadly that her father's surgery is very urgent, so there is no other way. Moreover, her dad and uncle are brothers, they should help each other. Zhao Jiesun reached out and patted Xiao Gu on the head and said that she hoped that soon they would live better. Zhao Jiesun turned and walked towards the luxurious house, Xiao Gu staring after her. Suddenly he turned around. 3 guys walked towards him. One of them asked the guy for a cent. Xiao Gu happened to be his cousin. The red-haired guy's name is Zhao Jianqing. His friend emphasized that he heard that Zhao Jianqing's cousin is the most beautiful in Haichun and she is like a flower that grows from cow dung. Zhao Jianqing chuckled and said that the parable about dung is clever and appropriate. Then he abruptly failed to contact Xiao Gu. He pushed him and asked him what Xiao Gu was doing in his house. Because of the push, Xiao Gu showed an unusual pendant in the shape of a flower. He was angry with Zhao Jianqing, and he, in turn, became interested in the pendant. Xiao Gu looked at Zhao Jianqing very indignantly. The red-haired guy grabbed the jewelry and asked where he got such a necklace from where Xiao Gu stole it. Zhao Jianqing tripped Xiao Gu and grabbed his jewelry and said that it was a gift from Zhao's grandfather. Because of the step, Xiao Gu fell and dropped his necklace. Xiao Gu managed to grab him, but Zhao Jianqing looked at him with an evil smile. He stepped on Xiao Ji's hand. The guy screamed in pain, but it was more important for him to protect the jewelry. The beginning necklace glows. Xiao Gu lifted it and suddenly he began to fall into some other space. He found himself in some room and, looking around in surprise, asked where he ended up. An unknown girl greeted him and said that this is the Shenhao system. The girl introduced herself. Her name is Fu Jiaojiao and she is an exclusive client of the service. Fu Jiaojiao asked if Xiao Gu was connected with the Shenhao system, because this system has incalculable wealth and can make him the richest in the world. She extended her hand to the guy, and it began to titrate. The system discovered that the carrier had been destroyed, so the system carried out the binding process. The titration was successful. Xiao Gu didn't even understand what just happened. Fu Zhaozhao congratulated Xiao Gu. He asked what if he doesn't want this ghostly creature. She answered with an angry tone that she could delete the system at any time. Xiao Gu said that he wanted to delete the system, to which Fu Zhaozhao said that after deleting he would die. Xiao Gu fell to his knees, apologized and said that he was wrong. There was no need to delete the system, but it was a kidnapping. Fu Zhaozhao said that she would give Xiao Gu a beginner's bag. He asked what use it was. The bag contained 1,000,000 and the strength of a tiger. Fu Zhaozhao said that Shenhao's money can be exchanged for real money, and the tiger's power can be exchanged for any product in Shenhao's store. Xiao Gu muttered dissatisfiedly that this was really some kind of economic pyramid. To this, Fu Zhaozhao said that she would return him back without any problems. She snapped her fingers, and Xiao Gu instantly found himself where he had disappeared from. He looked around. The guy was still among those hooligans. They humiliated and called Xiao Gu in every possible way. Zhao Jianqing swung his hand to hit Xiao Gu. At that moment Xiao Gu heard a voice saying that the system had detected that he needed help and suggested using the power of the tiger. Xiao Gu felt a surge of strength. The voice of the system said that the power would be used for 10 minutes. Xiao Gu immediately raised his hand to hit Zhao Jianqing. He was very determined. Xiao Gu hit the redhead and the voice of the system said that he only used 50% of the tiger's strength. Xiao Gu indignantly looked at his fist and asked why only 50, to which Fu Zhaozhao replied with a shrug that he did not yet have valuable skills. Xiao Gu clenched his fist and resolutely said that he was rich now and would not let Jiesun suffer. The uncle and aunt told Jiesun to leave Xiao Gu and marry Gao Gongzi, the heir to the company, to which Zhao Jiesun replied that she was married. Jiesun's relatives grinned and asked if she was really proud of this. They continued to insist on a divorce from Xiao Gu. The aunt asked Jiesun what is the use of her current husband. He is a loser and has no future. Zhao Jiesun objected fiercely. The old uncle said enough. until his wife reminded that the girl's father was still in the hospital. She said in a pleading tone that her father's operation costs 200,000 yuan. Jesun continued by saying that she would repay the debt in 3 days. Aunt and uncle laughed and said that Xin factory already owed 800,000 yuan to its headquarters. Almost crying, Jesun begged her relatives to cure her father, to which the aunt loudly asked if Jiaxing wanted to remarry or kneel. Suddenly, someone grabbed the girl's hand and pulled her towards him. It was Xiaogu. He was looking angrily at Jesun's relatives. He was holding a huge bag in his hands. Jesun asked why he came in. She asked to wait outside. Xiaogu replied that he did not want to be humiliated. Xiaogu covered Jiaxing with himself and resolutely said that he would help her and not the Zhao family. In addition, he is now rich and can solve the problems of Jesun's father's debt and operation. Auntie laughed at Xiao Ji's words, not believing that he really had money. Xiaogu turned to Jesun's relatives and told them not to bother her anymore, and they wouldn't bother them, and then looked affectionately at Jesun. The uncle stood up and objected and said that if Xiaogu is really the best for Jesun, let him prove it. In response, Xiaogu threw a bag at him. The bag was completely filled with money. Xiaogu clarified that there is 800,000 yuan and now the debt of the Xinxin garment factory has been repaid. Still with tears in her eyes, Jesun asked where Xiaogu got that kind of money. He took Jesun by the hand and said 100 now they will go to the hospital. There will also be enough money for the operation. The system voice notified Xiaogu that the feedback points were 0. Zhao Jianqing burst into the room, covered in marks of blows, and angrily declared that Xiaogu had hit him. Uncle Jesun sent his subordinate to stop Xiaogu, but the guy decided to use the power of the tiger again. Now an additional value of 0.5 was obtained. Xiaogu hit Uncle Jianqing's subordinate hard enough that he even flew off. Everyone was surprised by Xiao Ji's strength, and at that time the guy himself left the room with Jesun. The guy and the girl had already arrived at the hospital, and Jesun, worried, asked to check number 18. The girl at registration replied that there were no debts and no transactions. They decided to check what was going on. Xiaogu and Jesun were already heading to the ward. There they saw the following picture of Zhao Shan. Jesun's father praised the idea of Wang Feng, her mother, who suggested pretending to be sick until Jesun marries the rich Gao Gongzi. True, the father, a little embarrassed, asked if Jesun really wanted this. Jesun was very indignant at her parents' deception. Xiaogu originally assumed so. When the father saw his daughter, he tried to pretend to be sick, but it didn't work. Indignantly, Jesun asked why her parents were doing this to her. Stomping her foot, her mother menacingly replied that this was all for Jesun. To which Jesun, with tears welling up, replied that it was for Wai Fun. Tears flowed down Jesun's cheeks. Xiaogu looked at her tenderly and in the same gentle voice told her not to cry. Again, Xiaogu threw a bag of money, saying that this was the living expenses for this month, and asked him not to disturb Jesun in the future. Xiaogu defiantly left the room. The voice of the system said that the feedback was again 0 and he must come up with a new way to receive feedback. While he was leaving, Jesun's parents wondered where Xiaogu got so much money. Xiaogu sadly looked at the floor and thought that if it weren't for Jesun, he wouldn't want to become like this. He walked through the city at night. His stomach was grumbling. Xiaogu really wanted to eat, but he had no money left. He remembered the system and started calling Fu Zhaozhao. The girl appeared and asked why he bothered her while she was sleeping. He shared his problems with her and asked for help. The girl snapped her fingers. Some kind of timer appeared and began counting down 10 minutes. Fu Zhaozhao explained that the system will be rebooted when the timer expires and there will be no refund, and the limit is determined only by Xiaogu. Fu Zhaozhao warned that after the reboot he would only have a career. Xiaogu asked what a career was. The girl explained that it was the same pendant in the shape of a flower. He picked up the necklace and resolutely said that he didn't want to be the same as before, so he wanted to exchange it for 1 yuan. The exchange was completed and Fu Zhaozhao threw a coin to the guy. Xiaogu was indignant at why she was treating him so badly. Xiaogu decided to buy a steamed bun with this yuan, but he needs to be faster, because there are less than 10 minutes left. He approached the bakery, quickly shouted out that he wanted steamed buns. The voice of the system said that he had detected the use of currency. The seller took the coin. The system voice said that the feedback value was still 0, and there were 5 minutes left before the system rebooted. Xiaogu was desperate. he asked if he could ask without buying. The salesman and part-time cook will be angry with Xiao Gu. Xiao Gu, in despair, sat down on the bench and began to eat a bun. 3 minutes left before rebooting. He ate and cried thinking that he could not meet Jason. He thought about how useless he was and couldn't make his wife's life better. He apologized to Jason. A black cat jumped onto the bench and Xiao Gu noticed her. He looked at her sadly and decided to share the bun. The system voice said that there was 1 minute left. Xiao Gu no longer hoped for anything. Xiao Gu smiled and said that he was glad that the cat was accompanying him. 29 seconds left before reboot. The ringlet ate a piece and the voice of the system said that the feedback is now 1 million. Xiao Gu took the cat in his arms in surprise. Xiao Gu asked the cat what he was doing here alone. The cat purred and closed his eyes. The guy hugged the cat and happily said that he would take it with him. Jason loves cats. She will probably be very smart. He took the cat with him and said let's go home. Gao Gongzi at that time was sitting in his office, smoking a cigar and drinking wine. He asked Uncle Jason where Xiao Gu got so much money. The uncle began to make excuses and assumed that Xiao Gu simply stole the money. Gao Gongzi said that he would withdraw his investment because someone was against him. Uncle asked for a chance. He even fell to his knees. Gao Gongzi turned around so as not to look at it. Gao Gongzi's subordinate began to kick out Uncle Jason, who shouted after him that Xiao Gu was not from the Zhao family and that he was not to blame for this. Gao Gongzi ordered his subordinate to find Xiao Gu and drive him out of Haiyuan forever. Xiao Gu was walking home. Suddenly his look changed to surprise. A car passed next to him and stopped. Several guys jumped out of the car. All of them were Gao Gongzi's subordinates. Xiao Gu hid the cat and asked the guy what he wanted. Gao Gongzi's subordinate compared Xiao Ji's photo with the guy and confirmed that it was him. Xiao Gu, with a cat in his hands, began to run away from the crowd of guys and ask what they wanted from him. The subordinate ran straight towards Xiao Gu. He tried to grab Xiao Gu, causing him to accidentally drop the cat. The guy threw Xiao Gu against the wall. He hit his back. Xiao Gu was driven into a corner and had nowhere else to run. Xiao Gu asked to let him go because he doesn't even know these people. The guy swung and said that his boss hates Xiao Gu so he will force Xiao Gu to leave Haikeng forever. Xiao Gu angrily asked his subordinate to let him go. A woman's voice was heard. She said to stop all this, and asked how it was possible to contain murders during the day. A girl in a pink skirt appeared. All the guys swarmed around and started making fun of her. Xiao Gu realized that it was Yu Jiao from Haikeng University. The girl was embarrassed, but still continued to be indignant at the fact that such a crowd of guys were mocking the weak. Gao Gongzi's subordinate threatened Yu Jiao that she would end up like Xiao Gu if she continued, to which the girl replied that she was responsible for Xiao Gu. The guy ordered others to get rid of the girl, and they immediately attacked the girl. The girl tore the side of her skirt to make fighting easier. The guys started discussing the color of Yu Jiao's underwear. Taking advantage of the moment, the girl ran straight towards them. The girl deftly hit one of the crowd of guys. And then she also deftly dealt with another one. Taking advantage of the moment, the third young man decided to knock out the girl and swung a bat. Xiao Gu warned her and the girl quickly turned around, getting rid of another guy. The guys were extremely surprised. They did not expect that some girl would be so strong and dexterous. The guy said that he trained a lot, so Xiao Gu and Yu Jiao don't have to worry. The girl replied that it sounded terrible, to which the subordinate swung a bat, but Yu Jiao managed to skillfully dodge. He swung his hand again to strike, and she just as calmly dodged it. In addition, the girl was able to kick the guy. The girl returned to her stance, but the guy, holding his sore jaw, said that she was smart enough but rather weak. The girl became worried, and the guy began to act smiling, because his guess was correct. To distract the guy, the girl decided that quick and small blows to the face would be a good solution. The guy concentrated and said enough to hit the girl on the shoulder. The girl fell to her knees. Her body hurt very much and it was difficult for her to get up. The guy reached out to the girl and grabbed her blouse in one motion, tearing it off, saying that she must pay for her courage. The guys were excited by the sight of a half-naked girl. Xiao Gu angrily shouted that no one should touch her. Xiao Gu was angry and the system detected this, and then asked if he needed the power of the tiger. Xiao Gu answered without hesitation that he needed this power. The voice of the system said that the power of a tiger is worth 200,000 plus 80,000. Xiao Gu was indignant about why the system cannot be used directly. He called Fu Zhao Zhao. She appeared in front of him. then Xiao Gu asked to give him strength. She commented that Xiao Gu got into a fight again and threw the tiger's power into his mouth. Strength instantly filled Xiao Ji's body. He broke free and removed the two guys who were holding him to each other. Xiao Gu said that they forced him and went to the other guys to show them that he is not weak. The guys turned and grinned, asking Xiao Gu if he also wanted to be without clothes in the cold. Without hesitation, Xiao Gu smeared the guys who said this, and then others. Each blow added 1 point to Shen Hao. The girl sat and covered herself with her hands, but enthusiastically commented on Xiao Ji's skills. The guy started taking off his t-shirt. He handed the t-shirt to the girl to cover herself and thanked her for her help. From behind, some guy with a bat tried to hit Xiao Gu, but he realized in time, and he was able to block the blow, which gave him 20 points to Shen Hao. The guys were surprised and tried to attack Xiao Gu again with bats. Xiao Gu easily got rid of them. The girl covered herself with Xiao Ji's t-shirt and wondered where he got such strength. Xiao Gu appeared in the Shen Hao system. Fu Zhaozhao decided that she needed to explain to him about the system. Fu Zhaozhao showed Xiao Gu a list that said that gold currency equals real currency. You can purchase using the level of significant things, and you can also use the store to create currency. When a level is created there is a time limit. This is basically all Xiao Gu needs to know. Xiao Gu found himself in the middle of a fight again. He threatened the guys. One of them reluctantly came out to fight with Xiao Gu. The guy hesitantly swung his hand to hit Xiao Gu. He managed to hit him in the shoulder with a bat, but Xiao Gu also managed to hit him in the stomach. The main one of the hooligans shouted that Xiao Ji's weakness is speed. We can take advantage of this. He ordered that Xiao Gu be surrounded to make it more difficult for him to navigate. The guy yelled for them to quickly finish off Xiao Gu. The guys immediately attacked Xiao Gu. Xiao Gu was asked to fight one-on-one. Yu Jiao shouted at him to run. Then she shouted that there was an enemy behind and Xiao Gu tried to dodge. The enemy still hit the guy on the back. He furiously began to swing his arms back and forth. The guy said that this is just the beginning and Xiao Gu would be better off giving up. Xiao Gu called Fu Zhaozhao for help. Smiling, Fu Zhaozhao asked Xiao Gu if he needed the strength of a cheetah. Xiao immediately replied that he needed it, and the system said that the payment of 20,000 for the cheetah's strength was successful. Xiao Ji's opponent swung, but he managed to eat the cheetah's power, and he easily dodged the blow. Thanks to the speed of the cheetah, Xiao Gu dodged the blow and quickly ran towards the girl. He laid his body on her and told her to be quiet because he doesn't know any more ways to deal with them. Gao Gongzi's subordinates were deceived and demanded that the girl be released. Excited, Yu Jiao asked Xiao Gu if he had ever studied lateral arts or studied to become a military man, to which he replied that no. The girl was very surprised by this. Thinking up on the fly, Xiao Gu replied that he was doing radio gymnastics. She looked at Xiao Gu incredulously, but then shouted in support for him to show the hooligans the power of radio gymnastics. Xiao Gu began to warm up. Yu Jiao asked why he didn't start fighting, to which the guy replied that he was warming up, but a second later he ran straight towards his opponents. Without a weapon, Xiao Gu easily blocked all the blows and calmly dodged them. Now Xiao Ji's strikes brought plus 180,086 points to Shen Hao. Xiao Gu continued to strike and score more and more points for Shen Hao. Xiao Gu defeated all the hooligans and after putting Yu Jiao in a taxi, he got ready to go home with the cat. He sees Yu Jiao out and thinks that she is probably in love with him. At this moment, the subordinates had already returned to Gao Gongzi. He was very unhappy that they were unable to complete this building. Gao Gongzi turned around and said that this guy was no longer suitable for him. The guy was worried and said that he had an older brother who knew Kung Fu and could kill Xiao Gu, to which Gao Gongzi replied that he no longer had enough patience. Gao Gongzi was very serious and nothing could soften him. He simply ignored all the guy's requests while he was being dragged away. Gao Gongzi sat down in a chair and called somewhere. He asked to delete all orders from the Xinshin garment factory. He hung up the phone and looked at the screen of his phone. There was a photo of Jiasun. Gao Gongzi said that he always achieves what he wants. Meanwhile, Xiao Gu returned to Jiasun's house. He was met by her little sister Diao Zhao. She aggressively attacked Xiao Gu and asked why he didn't stay outside. Xiao Gu was furious and Diao Zhao added that he was useless. But in an instant her gaze fell on the cat that Xiao Gu was holding. Her mood immediately changed. She tried to take the cat, but Xiao Gu turned away and said that it was his cat. Then Diao Zhao coquettishly asked if Xiao Gu wanted a big rabbit. Xiao Gu immediately realized that there was no rabbit, and then Diao Zhao offered to play with her in exchange for a cat. Xiao Gu said that this was not a good idea, but the girl insisted. Then Xiao Gu agreed but warned that she had suggested some air. He swung his hand and hit Diao Zhao on the buttocks. The girl quickly took the cat and ran away. Jiesun entered the room. Diao began to complain about Xiao Gu for hitting her. Jiesun angrily replied that Xiao Gu was looking for problems for himself. Then when she saw the cat, she forgot everything that happened before and took the cat in her arms and even thought of a name for him, Xiao He. Diao Zhao didn't even have time to understand what happened. Jiesun and Diao took the cat with them to the bathroom and decided to give it a bath. Diao continued to complain about Xiao Gu. After bathing the cat, Jiesun discovered that its fur was actually white. The girl came out of the bathroom, she stretched and said that it was finally over. Jiesun called Xiao Gu to sleep, and a special place and feeding troughs had already been prepared for the cat. Jiesun told the guy that they were just sleeping today, and the inspired Xiao Gu asked if they would sleep in the same bed. Xiao Gu had already gone to bed. Jiesun replied that today she would sleep on the floor. It was already morning. Xiao Gu was still lying down and sleeping. Jiesun was sitting at the table and was indignant at something. Xiao Gu walked up to her, yawning, and asked what happened. Jiesun's parents burst into the room and were outraged. Her father continued to complain that 800,000 orders were lost and the warehouse would not be able to store that amount. Jiesun's mother yelled at her for pawning the factory on a fabric manufacturer. Mom continued to say in an angry tone that the factory was now over and asked what she was going to do now. Xiao Gu stood in front of Jiesun, defending her, and said that her parents themselves agreed to this. The parents disagreed with Xiao Gu and started telling him to leave their house. Jiesun remembered the money that Xiao Gu gave them yesterday and said that they could save the factory, to which the parents replied that they had already spent it. Tears flowed down the girl's cheeks. At that moment, Xiao Gu took her by the shoulder and looked into her eyes and said that he was nearby and that she should not worry. Jiesun's mother continued to resent Xiao Gu, but her father asked her to call Gao Gongzi. She agreed and said that only Gao Xi could help in such a situation. Gao Gongzi's best alleged son-in-law was recorded on her phone. RN quickly picked up the phone. They started discussing something about money and she replied that Jiesun would take something alone. Xiao Gu walked up to Jiesun and affectionately said that he would not hurt her anymore. He asked not to trust Gao Gongzi too much, because perhaps he was the one who cancelled the orders. The girl replied that she would not talk to him, and Jiesun's mother continued to tell Xiao Gu to leave their house. Jiesun was indignant and said that her mother allowed herself too much, to which she replied that if someone else had been in Xiao Ji's place, they would have lived much better. Xiao Gu left the house. The cat jumped from Diao's arms and ran after Xiao Gu. When Xiao Gu left, the phone rang. Jiesun answered the phone. She looked happy and excited. Her mother asked what was the matter. The joyful girl replied that someone had just ordered equipment worth 800,000 and now the plant would be saved. Her dad asked who the buyer was. Jiesun, thoughtful, replied that she didn't know and the order was made over the phone. Jiesun assumed that it was Xiao Gu. The voice seemed familiar to her. Her parents immediately discarded this thought. It was really Xiao Gu. He placed an order over the phone and then wondered what he would do with everything he had just ordered. The voice of the system said that he does not receive any feedback for this purchase. At that moment, a group of friends walked past him. He decided that he could earn feedback on them and confidently went to meet them. He was called out by some guy from this team, which made Xiao Gu very happy. The girl who was next to them recognized Xiao Gu as her classmate. The guy turned to Xiao Gu and said that he had no right to stop him. Xiao Gu looked at him questioningly and, not understanding, asked who stopped him. Another guy from the company whispered that Xiao Gu was deliberately teasing Gao Feng, and Feng Nie threatened to drive Xiao Gu out of Heikeng. Xiao Gu confidently said that if Feng Gu defeats him, then Xiao Gu will leave Heikeng. The guy happily agreed. Gao Feng's friends suggested that he not fight with Xiao Gu but rather play marbles. Xiao Gu said that if he wins, Gao Feng will buy equipment worth hundreds of dollars, but Gao Feng was sure otherwise, so he agreed again. Xiao Gu even drew up an agreement and forced Gao Feng to sign it. Friend Gao Feng began to explain the rules and prepare everything for the game. The rules are simple, you just need to guess how many balls are hidden. People surrounded the guys and whispered, discussing that this was impossible. Gao Feng began to mock Xiao Gu, to which he replied that no one knows who will win this argument, and then called Fu Zhaozhao to win. He found himself inside Shen Hao's system again. Fu Zhaozhao decided to mock Xiao Gu a little and talked like an answering machine on the phone. Xiao Gu reluctantly played along with her, and Fu Zhaozhao continued to mock her. Xiao Gu fell to his knees and asked not to play with him because he urgently needed help. Fu Zhaozhao rolled her eyes but still snapped her fingers. Behind her appeared prices for various powers in Shen Hao's store. Xiao Ji's balance was 168,668. He said that he needed promising eyes. They cost 200,000. Fu Zhaozhao replied that she had enough balance for such a purchase. Xiao Gu was desperate and fell to the floor. Fu Zhaozhao rolled her eyes and extended the power to Xiao Gu. He accepted it happily. Xiao Gu thanked Fu Zhaozhao and absorbed the power of the promising eyes. Now he could see how many balls were inside the cup. Xiao Gu saw 5 balls there and named that number. Gao Feng and his friends were surprised and wondered how Xiao Gu knew this. The guy who was playing the game decided to cheat. He told Xiao Gu to carefully look at the number of balls. After all, there were only 4 pieces and not 5. Xiao Gu got excited. He wondered why he didn't guess. Because he had the power of perspective eyes. This is impossible. Fan Nia was delighted with the win and ordered Xiao Gu to get out of Heikeng. Xiao Gu looked at them angrily and turned around. His gaze was bright. Now he needs to leave Heikeng. Yu Jiao suddenly appeared. RNA shouted wait and said that actually Xiao Gu was right. She pointed to the guy who was playing the game with his finger and said that she saw him move his hand to hide the ball. The guy became noticeably nervous but began to always deny. Yu Jiao grabbed his hand. The guy was indignant and said to stop slandering him, trying to escape. The girl hit the guy's fist and raised her open palm. There really was a ball there. The people in the crowd realized that this was a scam and that Gao Feng wanted to deceive Xiao Gu. Xiao Gu extended his hand and answered with a smile that now Gao Feng owes him $1 million. Angrily, he threw the card to Xiao Gu and turned around and left. Feedback amounted to 1,968,668 left. Xiao Gu was very happy about the million he earned. He shouted after Gao Feng to wait for orders soon. Suddenly someone would touch Xiao Ji's shoulder. It was Yu Jiao who handed the ball to Xiao Gu. He thanked her. Inadvertently, Xiao Gu used the power of his perspective eyes and saw Yu Jiao's underwear. Blood started coming from his nose. Yu Jiao excitedly asked what was the matter. Xiao Gu replied that she should not pass, otherwise he might not be able to restrain himself. Angry, the girl threw the ball at him and called him a bastard. She turned around and left. Xiao Gu showed Fu Zhaozhao and asked for the power to help him cope with his nosebleed. She laughed. Fu Jiaojiao told him to just close his eyes and rest for a while. At this time, in the large building, Gao Gongzi was waiting for Jiasun, but she still did not pass. He chuckled and said that in any case, he had no idea what happened. Secretary Gao Gongzi entered the office and said that it was time to meet with the staff. Gao Gongzi was upset that Jiasun had not yet arrived, but pulling himself together, he went to a meeting with the staff. Gao Gongzi noticed one of the workers was wearing a different work uniform. Entering the office to meet with the staff, he looked up and was very surprised. All the workers were wearing different uniforms. Gao Gongzi asked who told them to change their uniforms. The secretary said that the second young boss had just given a new uniform and even changed the branch. The financial manager nervously replied that he said that the boss asked to buy it and then paid 2 million by check. Gao Gongzi said furiously that Gao Feng was finished. Gao Feng stood in his office. Gao Gongzi began to scold him for the fact that spending from 800,000 had grown to 2 million. Gao Gongzi was outraged that Gao Feng was also a contender for the position of president of the company, to which Gao Feng nervously showed the agreement concluded with Xiao Gu. Gao Gongzi read the contract and at the same time asked the secretary where the leopard, the red-haired guy hooligan, had gone. The secretary replied that he was in a warehouse in the suburbs. Gao Gongzi ordered him to be brought back. And also bring your brother who knows martial arts with you. The secretary brought the leopard and his brother. Gao Gongzi was amazed at his brother's strength. At this time, Yu Jiao was in class at the university and was very angry with Xiao Gu. Xiao Gu entered the classroom and asked Yu Jiao to come out to talk. A guy approached Xiao Gu and asked what he was going to do with his girlfriend. Yu Jiao hit the guy and said that she was not his girlfriend and he had no right to treat her like that. The guy's name was Ma Wu. He is a student at Heikeng University and a teacher at the school. Xiao Gu praised Yu Jiao's strike. Yu Jiao called Ma Wu a bastard and asked what he allowed himself to do. The guy was surprised that the girl addressed him like that. Xiao Gu handed Yu Jiao the lollipop and asked for forgiveness. Ma Wu was sure that she was not asking him for one lollipop. Yu Jiao did a favor and actually forgave Xiao Gu for the lollipop. Ma Wu was desperate. Xiao Gu asked if he could find out something. Yu Jiao agreed and invited Xiao Gu to the forest to chat. Xiao Gu said that he wants to study martial arts better, so he wants Yu Jiao to help him. Ma Wu looked after them sadly. Ma Wu asked Yu Jiao to wait and tried to grab her skirt, for which he was kicked in the face. Xiao Gu and Yu Jiao were already leaving the audience. Ma Wu kept shouting for the girl not to leave with Xiao Gu, but all in vain. They reached the house Han Grove. Yu Jiao stopped and stood in front of Xiao Gu. Xiao Gu started waving his fist and enthusiastically asked the girl to teach him the movements she used. The girl took a fighting stance. She began to explain to Xiao Gu how to get into the same stance, to which the guy replied that it was too simple and he needed something more interesting. He swung his hand to hit her, but the girl easily blocked Xiao Ji's blow. Moreover, she even grabbed Xiao Ji's hand. She pulled the guy towards her for another blow. Yu Jiao warned Xiao Gu to be careful because he might accidentally miscalculate his strength. Yu Jiao walked right up to Xiao Gu and pushed with her shoulder. Xiao Gu flew to the nearest tree and ran away with his back against the trunk. Xiao Ji's nose began to bleed from the girl's blow. He barely got up and the girl asked how he liked her skills. Xiao Gu showed the class and asked if she had any other techniques. The girl was indignant and felt that Xiao Gu was trying to tease her with his comment, and she again headed towards the guy. The girl grabbed Xiao Ji's hand and hit her neck with her other hand. Yu Jiao hit Xiao Gu in the chest and then raised her hand again for a kick. With this blow she smeared him in the jaw. The guy didn't have time to understand what just happened. Yu Jiao stood up and advised Xiao Gu to train her palm to become stronger. Xiao Gu, overwhelmed, said that he understood everything, but suddenly another voice was heard. He asked who this couple was and whether they practice kissing like that. A very tall and muscular guy appeared from the forest. He began to approach Xiao Gu and Yu Jiao. He asked the guy Xiao Gu if he was. The young man answered positively and asked if he wanted to order clothes from the Shinshin garment factory. The guy asked if the factory had a coat with tiger embroidery. Xiao Gu answered with a smile that he could do this at the request of the client. The guy was surprised and even started to think about ordering, but then he quickly remembered that he didn't come for that. He said that he was Jin Hu, Leopard's brother, and came here to drive Xiao Gu out. Yu Jiao asked if he was from the Qiangbei Tiquan Museum. The guy confirmed and said that he is indeed known as Jiangbei Tiger Quan No. 1. Yu Jiao pointed to the side and said that Master Gong was there. Jin Hu turned around asking why the music teacher was here and then realized that there was no one there. Yu Jiao deliberately deceived Jin Hu because she realized that the two of them could not defeat him, so she decided to run away. Jin Hu was furious because she deceived him. Jin Hu took a low start pose and ran after Yujin and Xiao Gu. He easily caught up with them and attacked them from behind. Jin Hu swung his hand to remove them. Xiao Gu shouted to beware, and he exposed himself so that Jin Hu wouldn't hurt the girl. Jin Hu removed his hand, and Xiao Gu looked at him seriously. Jin Hu braced himself for the next blow. Xiao Gu asked for the tiger's power and the system reported that the tiger's power had been used. Now the balance was 768,668. Xiao Gu tried to block the blow. Xiao Gu was able to block his blow, but Jin Hu decided to throw another one. They both flew away from each other a great distance. Jin Hu took off his coat and said that he didn't know that Xiao Gu had strength. Xiao Gu discovered that his tiger power was blocked and could not understand why this was happening. Xiao Gu decided to act and delivered several blows that Yu Jiao taught him. Jin Hu asked if he was tired. Jin Hu easily grabbed Xiao Gu by the throat and began to choke him. He said it was his turn now. Yu Jiao tried to do something and rushed towards Xiao Gu. She kicked Jinha from behind to rescue Xiao Gu. Jin Hu turned around with a smile and told the girl that it was useless because he was not a weakling. At this time, Xiao Gu tried to call Fu Zhaozhao. Fu Zhaozhao appeared in front of him and said that he needed forged pills. She said that the effect of the pills will help increase bone strength and give immunity. Xiao Gu reached for the pill, but the system told him that Xiao Gu did not have enough balance. Xiao Gu asked to pay later. Fu Jiaojiao refused, saying that debt is not allowed in business. Xiao Gu became depressed. The girl whispered to Xiao Gu that the system had also received a replenishment. Xiao Gu was indignant why in such a situation Fu Zhaozhao was still thinking about business. Fu Zhaozhao laughed and said what is more important is life or money. Xiao Gu thought for a while. Xiao Gu took out a card and asked to top up his balance. The balance was replenished by 1 million, then a purchase was made for the same amount. Forged tablets have been successfully used. Jinhu squeezed Xiao Ji's throat more and more. Xiao Gu said that it was time to see his abilities. He touched Jinhu's eyes with his fingers and blinded him. Xiao Gu launched a counterattack. He hit Jinhu one blow after another. Xiao Gu hit Jinhu on the neck. Suddenly, something crunched. It seemed like Xiao Gu broke Jinhu's neck. The voice of the system was heard and said that 2,313,332 had been returned and now the balance is 1 million. Xiao Gu asked in surprise why there was a return. Smiling Fu Jiaojiao replied that she didn't know. Yu Jiao was surprised. She didn't think that Xiao Gu could defeat the famous boxer. Xiao Gu got nervous and said that she taught him this. Yu Jiao thought about the fact that Xiao Gu even fought Jinhu himself. This is just crazy. Yu Jiao said that her and Xiao Ji's training was over and ran, but suddenly her leg hurt. Yu Jiao fell in pain. She could not walk. Xiao Gu offered his help. Some guy was spying on them and he got nervous. The guy ran quickly to report to Ma Wu that Yu Jiao had left the grove. Ma Wu hit the guy and asked if it was a problem that she went out. She shouldn't sit at home all the time. To which the guy responded in tears that she came out hugging Xiao Gu. Li Mu immediately became depressed. He fell to his knees and sobbing asked why Yu Jiao did this. Why did he like her so much? The guy standing next to Ma Wu told him that he needed to put aside his sadness and they must find a way to take Yu Jiao away from Xiao Gu. Ma Wu replied that he really wanted revenge. The second guy interrupted him and said that he heard that Xiao Ji's wife is the most beautiful woman in Haiken. Ma Wu got angry and kicked him again. He said that no one could replace Yu Jiao in his heart. Ma Wu was determined. Another friend of Ma Wu took him by the shoulder and asked him to be patient for a while. Xiao Gu walked supporting Yu Jiao. They had already reached the campus gate. Everyone in the area was discussing them. Ma Wu appeared and ordered Xiao Gu to let his girlfriend go. Yu Jiao got angry and asked what he was going to do. Ma Wu suggested solving everything like a man. Xiao Gu asked what the problem was. Ma Wu suggested finding out who deserves to be Yu Jiao's boyfriend by competition. A crowd gathered around them. They were all very interested in what was happening. Someone shouted that Ma Wu had a black belt in Taekwondo. Xiao Gu replied that he did not want to fight with him. Ma Wu raised his hand to strike and asked if Xiao Gu was afraid of him. Yu Jiao shouted at him not to be stupid because Xiao Gu would not be able to defeat him. The crowd was in shock and heatedly discussed the fight. Xiao Gu easily dodged Ma Wu's fatal blow. In addition, Xiao Gu managed to slap Ma Wu in the face. Ma Wu fell from the blow. Xiao Gu walked up to him and said that Yu Jiao is free not to make her choice. The gathered crowd was shocked that Ma Wu lost. Xiao Gu invited Yu Jiao to take her home. Suddenly a car pulled up. The girl inside said unfortunately. Jessen was there. She said that Xiao Gu would go with her or... She paused. Xiao Gu immediately let go of Yu Jiao and she fell. He apologized and said that he was just in shock. Yu Jiao cursed. Jessen got out of the car and noticed that Xiao Gu was somehow very kind to his friends. People in the crowd looked at Xiao Ji's wife with admiration. Jessen walked up to Yu Jiao and asked if she was okay. The girl replied that everything was fine and decided to clarify that Xiao Gu was just helping her because she hurt her leg. Jessen laughed sweetly and said that Xiao Gu had to do it. Everything was fine. Jessen said goodbye to Yu Jiao, and the girl said goodbye in return. Yu Jiao was delighted with Jessen. She believes that Jessen deserves the title of the best woman in Haiken, and with disappointment I thought that she was far from Jessen. Jessen smiled and asked her husband if he was happy. Xiao Gu replied that he was happy and the next moment she sharply pinched him. Xiao Gu tried to hold back the sounds of pain, and Jessen just grinned. The car door slammed. Jessen was angry. Xiao Gu looked at his wife questioningly. She sighed and looked at Xiao Gu worriedly and asked Xiao Gu to fight less. Xiao Gu agreed with his wife. She lived and said that it's not worth getting into fights because it's like playing with death. Then Jessen said that she actually wanted to invite Xiao Gu to the restaurant, but her dad just called her. He got into a fight in the antique shop, so she needs to go there now. Xiao Gu and Jessen arrived at the antique shop. Father Jessen was lying on the floor and there were some fragments nearby. Jessen was worried and asked why her father was on the floor. Her father began to escalate the situation and said that if it weren't for her, he would already be dead. An antique shop clerk said her dad destroyed valuables in the store. yuan Qinghua. The girl became even more worried and asked whether the blue and white air was an antique from the Yuan dynasty. The seller said that yuan Qinghua is the most valuable item in their store and that the item is certified for $30 million. Jiasun was terrified. She didn't know what to do. Gao Gongzi drove up to the bench. He grinned and said that it was his turn to play. He walked into the shop and asked what Jiasun was doing here. The shopkeeper addressed Gao Gongzi as the boss and said that unfortunately there was an accident today. Gongzi asked what happened. The seller replied that Zhao Shan destroyed the most valuable item in the store. Gao Gongzi sighed and said that this is very bad, but if Jiasun agrees to meet with him, he asks everything to the Zhao family. Jiasun said that this is very polite. The shopkeeper interrupted her and said that if she did not agree to a date with Gao Gongzi, then she owed him compensation of $30 million. Jiasun's father begged her to agree because $30 million is an unrealistic amount for them. Jiasun remained silent. The seller decided to add fuel to the fire and said that if Jiasun did not agree and they could not pay, then Zhao Shan would be imprisoned. The father attacked Jiasun and begged her to agree. The girl's eyes welled up with tears. Xiao Gu called out to her and asked her to wait. Jiasun turned around. Xiao Gu put his hand on her shoulder and looked straight into her eyes. Gao Gongzi praised Xiao Gu for standing up for Jiasun, but then asked if he had $30 million. Xiao Gu replied that he doesn't have that kind of money yet, but he will take on the debt. Gao Gongzi said that Xiao Gu is just a groom. Why should he look at her in the mirror? The shop seller said that it was useless because he would not be able to pay. Zhao Shan was indignant and asked Xiao Gu if he wanted to kill him. Xiao Gu walked up to the fragments. He decided to examine them and replied that yuan Qinghua is an antiquity in the shape of a jar. It is decorated with moonflower and lotus patterns, but on these fragments, Xiao Gu only saw an ordinary lotus pattern. The seller was surprised by Xiao Ji's knowledge. Gao Gongzi wondered if Xiao Gu was a fan of antiques. Xiao Gu continued to say that this is not yuan Qinghua because the bottom is very smooth. Xiao Gu replied that he was sure that this was just an ordinary hand job and not yuan Qinghua. Gao Gongzi became angry. Jiasun looked at Xiao Gu with admiration and thought what a cool husband she had. Gao Gongzi exhaled and said confidently that this item has a certificate. It cannot be a fake. The seller replied that this is true, so they should compensate them for the damage. Xiao Gu asked if he could go to the Cultural Relics Research Center. Perhaps the certificate is also fake. Someone's voice was heard. He said that there is no need to rush. He will help Xiao Gu. It was Master Bao, an antiques expert. People in the shop began to whisper that Mr. Bao was a representative of the Antiques Association. The shopkeeper became noticeably nervous and thought that Master Bao could ruin all their plans. Gao Gongzi said that Master Bao does not have to interfere because these are their internal problems. Bao replied that if it concerns antiques, then he will participate in these matters. Master Bao looked carefully at the fragments. Everyone froze in anticipation. Master Bao replied that Xiao Gu was absolutely right and even complimented Xiao Ji's knowledge of antiques. Xiao Gu was flattered. Master Bao told the shop owner that he was often deceived and this could destroy the antique market, and if Master Bao announces this, his life will go downhill. The owner's hat fell. He began to make excuses and said that he was working for the Gao family. It was not his idea. Gao Gongzi kicked the shop owner and said that he was useless. Then he smiled sweetly and told Master Bao that it was just a misunderstanding. Gao Gongzi said that he carefully examined the item and registered it with the antique industry. Master Bao ran his hand over his beard and said that the fact that Xiao Gu had solved Gao Gongzi's game and won it remains a fact. Master Bao said that according to the rules, Xiao Gu can choose any item in this store. Xiao Gu scratched the back of his head. He didn't understand what was happening but everything seemed fine. Gao Gongzi looked away and reluctantly said that Xiao Gu could choose any item. Zhao Shan rushed to some trinket and said that it was the most expensive thing in the store. Master Bao looked with recognition and thought that this was an ordinary fake. At this time, Xiao Gu was carefully looking at the antiques. At this time, Xiao Gu asked Fu Jiaojiao for help. She asked if he really thought that if she had a lot of antique things in her door, then she understood them. Xiao Gu asked what he should do. Fu Zhaozhao extended the power of her promising eyes and said that everything is as usual. The voice of the system said that the promising eyes were used. Now Xiao Gu can see the most valuable item. He carefully examined each item and finally came across something interesting. It was an antique painting in disguise. Xiao Gu said that he chooses this painting. the voice of the system replied that the feedback is 18 million. The system voice said that the update was successful and that the reset time was set to 72 hours. Now Xiao Ji's status is a local resident. Xiao Gu smiled and imagined that he would go shopping and buy various brands for himself. The shopkeeper laughed loudly. He laughed throughout the entire store. They gladly agreed to the exchange. Zhao Shan got angry at Xiao Gu for choosing some nonsense. Master Bao looked at the picture through a magnifying glass and said with annoyance that it seemed Xiao Gu made the wrong choice. Master Bao said that Tang Yi no longer exists, there is no art in this anymore. The seller, smiling, said that according to the rules, after choosing, the decision cannot be changed. Xiao Gu said that he needed this particular painting. He simply asked her to sign. The seller gave Xiao Gu to sign this painting and joked that Xiao Gu was helping him get rid of the junk. Zhao Shan was simply furious that Xiao Gu could not choose something better. Jiasun asked to believe Xiao Gu. When Xiao Gu signed the documents on ownership of the painting, he asked with a grin to give him a knife. He will now show a miracle. He began to remove the top layer of the painting. Underneath there was another more valuable painting. Everyone was shocked and Xiao Gu smiled, pleased with himself. As it turned out, this was the first painting of the Xianghua dynasty. Master Bao fell to his knees and was in great shock. The shopkeeper and Gao Gongzi also changed a lot in their faces. Gao Gongzi could not understand how this could happen. But suddenly Gao Gongzi had an idea. He pointed to the painting and said that the tiger does not have a tail. Most likely this painting is a fake. The tiger in the painting really didn't have a tail. Xiao Gu explained to Gao Gongzi that according to rumors it is a tailless horse in the shape of a tiger, which is why the tiger has no tail. Jiasun looked at Xiao Gu with admiration, and Master Bao admired him too. Gao Gongzi kicked the shop owner again. The seller asked Gao Gongzi to calm down because this painting was previously only worth 1 million. Gao Gongzi got angry and said that now she is worth millions of dollars. Master Bao said that this painting is the best work that has high artistic value. It has also been the target of collectors for a long time. Master Bao then fell to his knees. Master Bao begged Xiao Gu to sell him this painting for $18 million. Jiasun was absolutely delighted with Xiao Gu and the amount of money he just earned. People in the crowd shouted that they would buy this painting for $20 or even $22 million. But Xiao Gu approached Master Bao and said that he would sell him the painting because he helped him. Zhao Shan grabbed the painting and said that someone wants to buy it at a higher price, and they need to sell it to others. Jiasun pointed to the antique fake horse and said that it was for him. Her father grabbed the horse. He didn't care if it was fake or not. There was a stomp in the shop. Gao Gongzi remembered the picture with anger. Gao Gongzi asked Leopard and his acquaintances to teach Xiao Gu a lesson worth as much as this painting. Leopard beat his guys to get better and turned to Gao Gongzi. The Leopard said that he would teach Xiao Gu a lesson that even his mother would not recognize him. Gao Gongzi told Leopard that he was trash. He misunderstood and thought that he was a salesman. Gao Gongzi hit Leopard and said that he meant him. He yelled at Leopard and asked why his brother wasn't here right now. The Leopard said that his brother was defeated, but he has another brother and he will definitely bring him. Gao Gongzi said that Leopard and his entire family are trash. The Leopard assured that this time he would definitely not let the boss down, because his brother is famous and very strong. Everyone is afraid of him. Gao Gongzi said that he hoped that this time his brother would not give up like him. Leopard assured that Xiao Gu would be dead. Gao Gongzi patted Leopard on the head and told him not to forget to bring him Jiasun this time. Gao Gongzi then wished him good luck and left. Leopard angrily replied that if Gao Gongzi were not rich, he would not work for him. At this time, Soya Gu, Jiasun and her father were driving in the car. Xiao Gu stared at Jiasun. Jiasun blushed and asked why he was looking like that. Xiao Gu used the power of his promising eyes and looked at the girl in her underwear. Xiao Gu thought how beautiful she was, but the voice of the system reported that the power of the promising eyes had ended. Xiao Gu got angry and asked for a little more strength. Zhao Shan looked at Xiao Gu suspiciously and asked if he was a drug addict by chance. While they were driving, someone scattered needles on the road to deflate the tires. Jiasun lost control of the car and began to brake sharply. Father Jiasun's antique horse fell out of his hands and hit the car window. Because Jiasun lost control, the car crashed into a pole. Xiao Gu pulled Jiasun out of the car and asked if everything was okay. The girl was bleeding, but she said that she was fine, pointing her finger behind Xiao Gu. There were 3 guys standing behind Xiao Gu, Leopard and his 2 brothers. Zhao Shan was only worried about his antique horse, the leopard asked if his daughter died would he feel the same way. Zhao Shan grabbed the leopard by the neck and began to strangle him. He said that he doesn't care, he wants this horse because it costs a lot of money. The leopard hit Jason's father and said how dare he talk like that. The leopard beat Zhao Shan and said that he called his brothers to kill his son-in-law. Is it really all in vain? Jason shouted to the leopard to stop hitting his father. Jinhu ran to Jia Et and said that it would be very easy to capture her. Xiao Gu grabbed Jinhu's hand and told him not to force him to break his neck again. Xiao Gu apologized and said that he only knew this movement and hit Jinhu on the neck again. Xiao Gu knocked out Jinhu again and asked the leopard what he had done to his relatives. Leopard threw Zhao Shan and asked if Xiao Gu really wants to save this old man. Xiao Gu said that he really likes Zhao Shan but he doesn't want to see his wife sad. Leopard's second brother interrupted him and told them to stop talking nonsense. Xiao Gu asked why Leopard was looking for problems. Neither he nor his family did anything, Leopard and Jinhu thought. Second Leopard brother commented on Xiao Ji's relationship with Jason while swinging for a punch and said that he did not deserve to be with her. Xiao Gu blocked the blow and swung back, answering that he was trying his best for her. Leopard's brother calmly stopped Xiao Ji's blow. Xiao Gu thought about the fact that he needs to learn a lot about martial arts. Xiao Gu thought about the fact that he needed to get out of here as quickly as possible. Take Leopard said that now it's his turn. Brother Leopard shouted and pounced on Xiao Gu again. The guy tore Xiao Ji's t-shirt. He was indignant and called him a pervert. Leopard's brother grinned and said that he didn't understand why someone like Xiao Gu defeated his brothers. Xiao Gu said that his brothers would answer him themselves. Leopard and Jinhu said at once that Xiao Gu is very strong. Xiao Gu grinned and said that they were right. Fu Zhao Zhao suddenly appeared. She gave him 6 balls with force and Xiao Gu accepted them with a smile, answering so that she would not worry because Xiao Gu has money. He accepted the power and wondered why Fu Zhao Zhao agreed to share the power with him so quickly. The voice of the system said that a purchase was made for 10 million. Xiao Gu was horrified. Jason walked up to him and asked if everything was okay. Xiao Gu thought that apparently this was the most expensive purchase in his life. Jason turned to Leopard's second brother and said that she would call the police now. RN pretended to be scared and asked why she still called her. Xiao Gu said that there is no need to call the police, because he spent too much money on defeating him. Xiao Gu jumped very high. So high that he didn't even realize how high he was. Everyone around couldn't believe their eyes. Even Xiao Gu himself. Besides, he could not control his body and began to fall rapidly. Xiao Gu was directly above second Leopard brother and fell directly on his head. Brother Leopard was defeated. He fell and couldn't move. Xiao Gu put his hand behind his head and scratched the back of his head. He apologized and said that he simply couldn't control himself. The voice of the system said that the prize for winning is 10,000 yuan. Now Xiao Ji's balance is 941 million yuan. Xiao Gu was indignant. Xiao Gu was disappointed that he spent so much money on something other than that, but it didn't pay off. Xiao Gu noticed Leopard and Jinhu. They told Xiao Gu to stop and calm down. At the same time, the leopard and his brother hit themselves on the head with a brick. And brother's tires now lay on the road. Xiao Gu was happy about the victory, but he was very upset about the 9 million spent. Jason burned. Is everything okay with Xiao Gu? Does he need to go to the hospital? Xiao Gu walked up to Jason and said that he was fine. He wiped the tears from her cheeks. Jason cried and said that she was incredibly happy and that Xiao Gu was okay. The 3 brothers lay prostrate in a row. Zhao Shan shouted that they should not pretend to be dead because they must compensate for his horse that was broken. Zhao Shan was very disappointed. Xiao Gu took him by the shoulder and said that it doesn't matter and suggested that he go home. Zhao Shan sighed very disappointedly, and Jason was simply delighted with Xiao Ji's skills. Jason kissed Xiao Gu on the cheek. He blushed a little. Zhao Shan asked what about the car. Jason replied that she would call the insurance company. Xiao Gu said that he would buy her a new one. Gao Gongzi was in the office at this time. He sighed and, closing his eyes, took his forehead. He angrily asked if even the 3 of them were so useless. The leopard assured that it was a pure accident. Xiao Gu somehow flew up and fell right on their heads. Gao Gongzi kicked leopard again. Gao Gongzi replied that he absolutely didn't care what happened, he just wanted the result. He called all 3 brothers trash. Jinhu said that they really failed this time, but if Gao Gongzi gives another chance, they will definitely kick Xiao Gu out. Gao Gongzi hit Jinhu and said that they had lost their chance. Gao Gongzi hit Jinhu again and said that trusting them was the worst thing he had ever done. second leopard brother clenched his fist out of anger. He got up. Gao Gongzi asked to allow him to stand up and ordered him to sit down on his knees again. Leopard's brother said that they are not bandits but fighters. Gao Gongzi should appreciate their efforts. Jian Gongzi said that they were like little ants to him, and that he could hire 1,000 people like him. Gao Gongzi raised his hand to hit him. Gao Gongzi did not have time to touch him when he received a slap in the face from Brother Leopard. Leopard and Jinhu panicked and asked him to stop. He angrily said that he wouldn't let him touch him. Gao Gongzi began to bleed. The brothers stood over him calmly. The leopard got worried and said that he brought them here so that they could help him and not beat up the boss. His second brother agreed but said that he did not agree with this garbage. Jinhu noticed that they still needed money. Leopard said that it's not just about money. Now they can't live here so they have to return to Jiangbei. The brother replied that they are already here, then they must stay afloat. He asked to be called Jianglong from that day on. Jialuan turned and told his brothers to follow him. Now he will take them to the new boss. Gao Gongzi shouted that they did not have the right to hand him over. He would not allow them to live in peace. The leopard decided to finish off Gao Gongzi. He also hit him and said that he had been with him for a long time. But Gao Gongzi never made his life better. The brothers beat up Gao Gongzi and left the building. Gao Gongzi barely crawled to the phone. He dialed someone and asked to give him information about Yubo. He wants to kill Xiao Gu and everyone who betrayed him. At this time, Xiao Gu and Jessen were at home. Jessen was putting on makeup and Xiao Gu was watching her with his perspective eyes. Jessen blushed and said that she felt Xiao Ji's gaze. Xiao Gu shook his head and pretended not to look and said that it seemed to her. Jessen said that she wanted to see their old house and asked if Xiao Gu would go with her. Xiao Gu happily agreed. Xiao Gu and Jessen arrived at their old house after some time. Jessen noticed that they left here just 6 months ago and the house looked new then, but now apparently it's time for renovation. Xiao Gu remembered grandfather Zhao and said that if it weren't for him, Xiao Gu would have died of hunger. Xiao Gu recalled the moments when grandfather Zhao was still alive. Grandfather Chanchan turns to Jessen and says that after she gets married, she should be a good wife for Xiao Gu and vice versa. Jessen blushed and felt shy. Grandfather now turned to Xiao Gu and said that regardless of his achievements, Xiao Gu must remain loyal to Jessen. Xiao Gu said that he would try to be close to Jessen and protect her. Grandpa Chanchan began to cough. Xiao Gu and Jessen were worried and told him to go home. The grandfather replied that he knew that the time would come soon, and he was very sorry that he would not be able to see his granddaughter get married. Grandfather held out that same necklace to Xiao Gu with a trembling hand and told him to take care of it. Grandfather's hand dropped sharply. Xiao Gu and Jessen. Xiao Gu rushed to grandfather. He and Jessen were very worried. Grandfather woke up and told Xiao Gu to help the Zhao family solve their existing problems. Then grandfather's head dropped. Xiao Gu put his finger to grandfather's nose to check his breathing. Jessen looked at Xiao Gu questioningly, and then they realized that their grandfather had already left them. Now they were entering the gates of the old house. Xiao Gu said that his father doubted that the will that his uncle brought was a fake and this caused the quarrel. Jessen said that at that time, the Zhao family was experiencing an economic crisis and all assets were surrendered. She regretted that she couldn't do anything about it. Maybe she could fix the situation. The couple stood by a tree. They held hands and enjoyed the moment. Jessen said that she would always be with Xiao Gu, but he blushed and thought that he would never forget this moment. The couple walked towards the Jessen house, embarrassed, thinking that they were glad that they could finally come here. Xiao Gu opened the door and told Jessen to be careful. The girl began to look for something. Xiao Gu asked what she was looking for and if she needed help. Jessen replied that she was looking for a photo of her with her grandfather. Jessen said that she remembers that she put it somewhere, but she couldn't find it. Xiao Gu replied that he would try to help her. Xiao Gu asked Fu Jiaojiao for the power of promising eyes. The girl replied that this power is not for sale. Xiao Gu said that he has money, why doesn't she sell him power? Fu Jiaojiao reminded how many times Xiao Gu bought the power of promising eyes today. Xiao Gu seriously said that his wife is very beautiful, so he won't get tired of looking at her. Fu Zhaozhao angrily said that since she is his wife, why not take action? Why is he willing to buy promising eyes? Xiao Gu just realized that he can really just ask his wife to dress something interesting. But Xiao Gu said that this time he really needs strength to find something. Fu Zhaozhao angrily threw the power at Xiao Gu. He quickly ate it and the voice of the system announced that the promising eyes had been successfully used. Xiao Gu used force to find the photo. He looked around the hall. then found some kind of box with a piece of paper. He shouted to Jason that he seemed to have found the photo. Xiao Gu took out the box. Jason looked and said that it seems there is something here. She opened the box and there really was a photograph. Jason was glad that the photo was found. The system said that 5,901 Shenhao points were used. Xiao Gu asked why it was so expensive. Xiao Gu felt dizzy. Jason asked if everything was okay. Xiao Gu replied that everything was fine and said that apparently this photo was really important to her. Jason put the photo to her heart and said that it was very valuable to her. Xiao Gu wondered if Fu Zhaozhao had given the wrong price. Jason asked to give her the box to look at. She said that she remembered that there was a mezzanine there when she was little. Her father hid her allowance here and said that he would give it back later. Some money in some kind of disc fell out of the box. Jason was surprised. Jason didn't expect that her grandfather's legacy would be there. Xiao Gu said that there is no CD-ROM at home and there are no computers with it. He asked what they need to do with it. Xiao Gu had an idea. He said that he knew a place but didn't care if it was open now. Xiao Gu and Jason arrived at some place and Xiao Gu spoke here. Jason said that she once came to this place and met Xiao Gu. He got scared and ran away by jumping out the window. Jason thought that Xiao Gu was a good person, but it was her family that was against him. They approached the registration. The guy working there was sleeping. Someone knocked on the table and said that everything was empty there. The guy woke up and asked if the couple wanted to rent a room for viewing and also commented on how beautiful Jason was. He looked at Jason and said that he seemed to have fallen in love with her. Xiao Gu angrily said to come down from heaven to earth. The guy quickly said that they were going right, then turned right. He was noticeably nervous about the girl. But as soon as the couple disappeared, he called someone and said that it seemed that the person he was looking for had arrived. The man in black on the other end of the line asked if the girl was beautiful. The guy replied that her beauty is difficult to describe in words. She has a semicircular face and a sharp nose. His boss, smoking a pipe, said that it was definitely her. Then the guy told him to hurry up. Xiao Gu began to figure out how to insert a CD. Jason asked why they came to this place again and blushed deeply. Xiao Gu sat down next to her. An awkward silence hung over them. Xiao Gu said that they finally returned to this place. Although he did not expect it, Jason replied that she preferred watching movies in Hong Kong. Xiao Gu sighed in disappointment. Jason was worried. She rushed to the guy and hugged him, saying that she was scared. Disc recording is enabled. The grandfather on the recording began to say that he has one wish that he wants to come true after his death. Grandfather said that he could not manage his family and especially his children, but he had high hopes for his granddaughter from her fiancé. Xiao Gu now understood something. Jason looked at the will excitedly. Jason also realized that grandfather had left the company to Jason and Xiao Gu. Then why did her uncle take it upon himself? Xiao Gu said that they had gone too far, and then he guessed why Shenhao's system gave $800,000. It was his own money. Xiao Gu thought that as long as he was still using the system, he would not be left without money. Fu Zhaozhao suddenly appeared and said that he finally understood. Xiao Gu asked why she was eavesdropping on him again and couldn't leave him for a while. Fu Zhaozhao said she wanted to warn him. Xiao Gu began to rush around the room and decided to look out the window. He saw a man and 4 people dressed in white there. They were accompanied by the guy who was at the registration. The man in black is called Qianwan Fu. He ordered to get rid of Xiao Gu and kidnap Jason. He also reminded that this guy has abilities and that they should be careful. The 4 young people resolutely walked towards Xiao Gu and Jason. They said that if they couldn't get rid of Xiao Gu, then such things would continue. Therefore, the guy thought that if he didn't die himself, then Qianwan Fu would die. Jason asked excitedly what happened. Xiao Gu replied that it seems there are people who want to harm them, but Xiao Gu will try to protect Jason. Jason confidently said that she believes in him. Xiao Gu shouted after me and grabbed Jason's hand and ran towards the exit. On the threshold, one of the killers refused. She had a gun and pointed it straight at Xiao Gu and Jason. Bullets flew at them, but Xiao Gu deftly dodged them and also saved Jason from the bullets. Xiao Gu thought that they wouldn't be able to escape so easily, because she could hit him. The girl in white was surprised at how the guy dodged all the bullets. Xiao Gu broke down the door to some cubicle to take cover. He looked up and was shocked. The people in the cabin were killed. Xiao Gu said angrily that these killers in white even kill innocent people. Someone threw an arrow toward Xiao Gu. He once again dodged and protected Jason from the arrow. The guy in white with the crossbow said that there are tens of millions of dollars assigned for Xiao Gu. so he will have to get rid of Xiao Gu. The guy again aimed the crossbow at Xiao Gu. He tried to dodge and again ended up in some kind of booth. Xiao Gu thought that he couldn't be too close to him, so what should he do? There was a movie playing in the booth. Xiao Gu turned around and noticed the scenes in the movie. The guy in the movie broke the record into 2 parts and said he could do it easily. Xiao Gu understood how to act. He followed the example of the guy from the movie and also broke the record into 2 parts. The guy in white looked questioningly at Xiao Gu, not understanding what he was planning to do. Xiao Gu at that moment threw half of the plate directly at the enemy. The sharp part of the plate hit the hand of the assassin and the crossbow fell out of his hands. Xiao Gu took advantage of the moment and ran towards the enemy in the film. The guy hit his opponent in the face with a sharp plate. Xiao Gu did the same and said that from this day on he will stop being inactive. The guy in white was lying on the floor unconscious. Jason walked up to him and asked Xiao Gu if he did this. Xiao Gu resolutely replied that the guy really died. Xiao Gu suddenly felt 100 in his soul, as if someone had woken up. Xiao Gu stopped abruptly and threw the second half of the plate. He disarmed the girl in white whom he had met earlier. Xiao Gu shouted the back door and he and Jason ran in that direction. Jason looked at the lying guy and thought that Xiao should have done this. The guy and the girl stopped abruptly. They were simply in shock. In the next booth there was another girl in white. She killed innocent people. The girl turned and stuck her tongue out at Xiao Gu. She said that now Xiao Gu will not be able to escape. Xiao Gu said that all her other friends are dead, so she's next in line. The girl showed her skills by taking different stances and told Xiao Jian to watch what he says. Xiao Gu chuckled and told her to surprise him. The girl attacked Xiao Gu with knives. In one motion, Xiao Gu kicked the girl. The girl crashed into a huge window and fell out. Xiao Gu said thank you, and on the screen at that time Jackie Chan replied please. Xiao Gu was shocked. It seems this time he was repeating Jackie Chan's movements. Xiao Gu took Jiazam by the hand and shouted that they need to run away quickly. Xiao Gu and Jason entered the room. Another guy in white was sitting there. He held the phone in his hands and said come in. Jason said that the TV was turned off. But what about the guy? Xiao Gu replied that it was his time to act. Xiao Gu approached the guy and, setting his pipe on fire, said that fighting is boring, maybe it's better to watch a movie. The guy replied that he was just in the mood to watch some movie today. He even let Xiao Gu choose the disc. Xiao Gu once chose a movie with boxers and smiled slyly. He threw the remote control at Jason and asked her to choose the coolest part of the film. The guy stood up and said that Xiao Gu had better beware of him because no one had yet been able to withstand his infernal fist. The guy showed his gloves with spikes. A boxing match was taking place on the screen. One of the boxers knocked out the other. Xiao Gu exactly repeated that scene in the movie and hit the guy in white. Xiao Gu said with a smile that the guy was strong, although he could hardly speak from the blow. Xiao Gu hit him a couple more times and the guy in white fell. Xiao Gu stopped. Jason said enthusiastically that even he was no match for Xiao Gu, to which Xiao Gu took her chin. And he approached for a kiss. Xiao Gu realized that he could not control himself. Xiao Gu looked Jason straight in the eyes. He thought that he had irregular blood flow and heartbeat. Jason thought that only her grandfather's desire forced her to live with him, and for 3 years she always underestimated him. Now he asks for forgiveness. Jason closed her eyes and was now ready to become a full-fledged wife for Xiao Gu. Xiao Gu and Jason walked out of the booth. The girl was very deflated and flushed. The last girl in white was waiting for Xiao Gu. Her gun was already pointed in their direction. Jason clung to Xiao Gu and said that she was scared. Xiao Gu admitted that he was also scared. The girl with the gun said that even though Xiao Gu defeated everyone, he couldn't defeat her. Xiao Gu and Jason were cornered, and the girl shot and shot at them. Xiao Gu was outraged that the girl was shooting recklessly. She replied that it was his fault that he wounded her right hand. Xiao Gu quickly rushed to the TV. He turned it on and said it was his turn. There were adult films on the screen. Xiao Gu thought that this way of fighting was very interesting. Xiao Gu began to take off his t-shirt. The girl in white was concentrated on the guy's body. He distracted her this way. Now that Xiao Gu had distracted her, the girl was indignant. The guy grabbed her hand and prepared to strike. He hit her in the stomach with his shoulder, thereby disarming her. Xiao Gu hit the girl in the neck and knocked her out. Now he got rid of all opponents. Qian Fu got out of the car in a place with some guy. He asked the guy who he thought would succeed. Xiao Bo replied that most likely the red sister is a sniper. The man replied that in his opinion it would be Mr. Green. he has excellent speed and strength. The man told the guy to think better because he organized this team. He also said that he would give him a gift later. The guy beamed with joy. However, none of their assassination team left the building. Two silhouettes appeared emerging from this building. It was Xiaogu and Jiasun. The girl looked at her husband. Her eyes sparkled with admiration. Qianwan Fu and Xiao Bo were simply in shock. They did not expect that Xiaogu would be able to defeat their team of assassins. Xiao Bo said that according to his brother, Xiaogu has excellent abilities. They better leave now before it's too late. They got into the car and tried to escape as quickly as possible. The police arrived at the building. They evacuated all the dead from the building. Jiasun cried and explained to the police that 4 men in white tried to kill them. The police girl said she would explain the details now. She said that these are professional killers and they are fugitives, so the police will give Xiaogu a bonus. At that moment the police arrested the guy who was at the registration. He shouted that he did nothing. The position presented the guy that he had been on the run for a long time, so he would no longer be able to escape. Soon, Xiaogu and Jiasun were already home. The girl was drying her hair and asked Xiaogu to help her fix Zhao Group tomorrow. Xiaogu happily agreed. The girl yawned and said that she really wanted to sleep. Xiaogu said 100 will now prepare a place to sleep on the floor. The girl slyly asked if Xiaogu was cold sleeping on the floor. Xiaogu said that everything is fine and he is not cold, but he mentally scolded himself for refusing such an opportunity. Xiaogu awkwardly said 100 he was cold. The girl looked at him angrily and lay down on the bed. The guy continued to scold himself. Xiaogu tried to sleep, but something was bothering him. He wondered why there was no end to this. The monster inside him insisted that Xiaogu could never be peaceful and told him to wake up. Xiaogu opened his eyes. He heard that Jiasun got up in the middle of the night and began to get ready somewhere and then left completely. Xiaogu decided to follow her just in case. The guy got into a taxi and ordered to follow the car in which Jiasun was. The girl started to leave. Xiaogu ordered the driver to stop. Xiaogu slammed his fist and sadly asked why she came here at night. The taxi driver said he sympathizes with him. Xiaogu entered the building. He noticed the camera and thought that it seemed to be still on. He stood and thought about how he could get further. Jiasun walked into Gao Gongzi's office. He drank wine and said that he had been waiting for her for a very long time. Jiasun asked what he was going to do to get rid of Xiaogu. She thought that Xiaogu had done a lot for her. Now it was her turn to return the favor. Gao Gongzi replied that if she doesn't want Xiaogu to die, Jiasun should be willing to sleep with him. Jiasun shook her head angrily and replied that this was impossible because she was married and would be with Xiaogu until her death. Gao Gongzi chuckled and said that he heard that Xiaogu and Jiasun still sleep separately and this is not normal for couples. Jiasun looked away and told Gao Gongzi not to interfere in their relationship. Gao Gongzi asked if it was because of Lu Yuan that she slept separately with Xiaogu. The girl was indignant and said that she had forgotten him a long time ago. Gao Gongzi called them liars. Jiasun objected. Gao Gongzi approached her and tried to touch her neck. Gao Gongzi furiously said that he loved Jiasun so much that he even took the main inheritance of the Gao family to get Jiasun. The girl asked in fear what he meant. Gao Gongzi replied that the family was not willing to donate wealth so he killed them. Jiasun stepped back and said in fear that he was crazy. Gao Gongzi shouted that he was really crazy. He was crazy about Jiasun. Jiasun took out a knife from her purse and waved it so that Gao Gongzi would leave her behind. She held the knife in front of her and said that she did not want Xiaogu to suffer because of Gao Gongzi. The guy quickly grabbed her by the neck and the hand with which she was holding the knife. He furiously asked how dare she attack him. The girl was very scared. He hit the girl. Jiasun fell to the floor. She looked helplessly at Gao Gongzi. The guy began to take off his clothes and said that she had come to the tiger's enclosure, so don't blame him for his rudeness. Suddenly Gao Gongzi was hit by someone. It was Xiaogu who kicked the guy to stitch up his wife. Gao Gongzi was knocked back by Xiao Ji's blow. Gao Gongzi began to take out his gun. He pointed the gun at Jiasun and said that if he doesn't get it, then no one will get it. Gao Gongzi fired. Xiaogu managed to cover Jiasun with himself and received a bullet in the shoulder. Xiaogu stood calmly and told Gao Gongzi not to try to offend his woman. Gao Gongzi angrily asked if Xiaogu was sure that he was still safe. Gao Gongzi shouted that none of the fighters he hired could kill Xiaogu, but this time he would not survive. Xiaogu said that he was sure that there was no bullet in his gun. Gao Gongzi fired and there was a bullet in the pistol. Xiao Gu underestimated Gao Gongzi. Xiao Gu admitted his mistake and thought that at least he could protect Jiesun from the bullet. Gao Gongzi furiously shouted that Xiao Gu would die today. Jiesun looked to the side and asked why Uncle Gao was here. She was trying to distract Gao Gongzi. Gao Gongzi turned around. The diversion was a success. Xiao Gu attacked Gao Gongzi. Xiao Gu swung his hand to hit Gao Gongzi. Xiao Gu hit Gao Wait so that he fell from the window of a multi-story building. The guy fell out. There were fragments and blood everywhere. Xiao Gu went to the window and said that he hoped that Gao Gongzi died. Jiesun went to him and motioned for him to be quieter. Jiesun showed a pen with a built-in voice recorder and said that she recorded everything Gao Gongzi said. There was a sudden sound. Xiao Gu hit Jiesun on the cheek. Jiesun looked at Xiao Gu in confusion and asked why he hit her. Xiao Gu angrily said that from now on she should not do stupid things that put her in danger. Jiesun blushed and realized that Xiao Gu cared about her. The policeman listened to the recording made by Jiesun while the wounded Xiao Gu was being taken out on a stretcher. The police wondered if Gao Gongzi killed himself because he felt guilty. She looked at Xiao Gu and thought that she should investigate everything thoroughly. Xiao Gu said goodbye to the policewoman. Jiesun looked at him askance. Xiao Gu and Jiesun had already arrived at the hospital. Jiesun stood outside the ward and was very worried. The guy was in the operating room. Doctors surrounded Xiao Gu. Surgeons performed the operation and pulled out the bullets from Xiao Ji's body. One of the surgeons said that Xiao Ji's body is very strange. His skin is hard and thick. Lying on the operating table, Xiao Gu asked what. One of the doctors turned to Xiao Gu and said that they had already administered anesthesia 3 times and Xiao Gu would not calm down. Even if he at least respected them as officers. The guy apologized. After the operation, Xiao Gu lay in the ward. Fu Zhaozhao suddenly appeared. She sat down next to him and asked why he couldn't sleep. Xiao Gu asked in response what she was doing here. The girl grinned and replied that she just wanted to visit the guy and asked him how he was feeling. Xiao Gu turned away and told Fu Zhaozhao not to look for trouble because his wife was here. The girl approached Xiao Gu and said that she was sleeping and even if she woke up, she wouldn't see her. Xiao Gu shouted shut up and Fu Zhaozhao laughed loudly. Fu Zhaozhao said that she was actually here to give him medicine. She developed a pill and asked if he would try it. Xiao Gu picked up the tablet. It was huge. They brought a tray and cutlery to Xiao Gu. The guy who looked after Xiao Gu said that he hoped that the guy could eat with pleasure. Xiao Gu picked up the instruments and looked questioningly at the tablet. He thought that all things from Fu Zhaozhao should be good, so as he entered, he cut off a piece of the pill and ate it. Xiao Gu forcefully ate the pill and realized that his wounds were itching. Then he realized that his wound was healing quickly. Fu Zhaozhao looked at Xiao Gu and thought that if the product really works, then it is very valuable. Xiao Gu happily ate the entire pill and said that good things should not be kept secret. The guy took off his bandages and there was no trace left of his wounds. Xiao Gu said that the medicine is incredible. Fu Zhaozhao, pleased with herself, replied that this is an ancient recipe that can cure all diseases in an instant. Xiao Gu said that Fu Zhaozhao can produce such medicine and Xiao Gu can help sell it and they can make good money from it. The next day, Jiesun approached Xiao Gu and asked how he was feeling. Xiao Gu lifted his t-shirt and showed that his wounds had healed. Jiesun was of course happy, but couldn't understand why so quickly. Xiao Gu said that he heard that his uncle was going to sell the company today so they should stop him. Xiao Gu and Jiesun got into the car and drove to the building where negotiations on the sale of the company will be held. Some young guy handed his pen to Uncle Jiesun and said that if he is willing to sign this document, then the name of the Zhao company will be changed. Uncle Zhao replied that he wants to turn the Zhao family into the #1 family, so he agrees to sign. The guy assured that by signing the documents a wonderful life would begin. Uncle Zhao said that Lu Yuan is a successful young man who is likely to have a bright future. Lu Yuan replied that unfortunately he lost his precious moment, and he said that he regretted that he went abroad when Jiesun needed him. Uncle Zhao smiled and told Lu Yuan not to worry because there will still be opportunities in the future. Xiao Gu and Jiesun entered the office. The girl shouted to her uncle not to sign anything. She said he couldn't sell the company that easily. Uncle did not expect to see her here and ordered her to leave the building. Uncle Zhao objected and said that they did not have any qualifications for the company and began to call the guards. Xiao Gu said that it was useless to call the guards because he eliminated them. Aunt Jiesun asked what she needed. The girl angrily replied that she had found her grandfather's message. Uncle and Aunt Zhao didn't expect to hear this. they had already forgotten that they got the company by deception. Jesun turned on the disc that her grandfather recorded before his death. Uncle Zhao hit the table with his fist. He threw the papers and was angry at his grandfather's words. He called it unremarkable. Xiao Gu said that this is nonsense and that Zhao's strength is insanely great. Aunt nervously asked if Jesun was ready to sign the contract. She could ask Lu Yuan. Jesun asked again. Lu Yuan greeted Jesun as if nothing had happened and said that he had finally returned. Jesun greeted him back with a smile. Lu Yuan said that he really missed his goddess. Xiao Gu was indignant and said that Lu Yuan has no right to call her a goddess because she is Xiao Ji's wife. Jesun wondered in surprise, does Lu Yuan not know that she is married? Lu Yuan asked who he was. Jesun interrupted him and said that she forgot to introduce her husband Xiao Gu to him. Lu Yuan was silent at first and then thanked Xiao Gu for taking care of Jesun while Lu Yuan was away. Xiao Gu replied that he naturally cares about Jesun because she is his wife. Lu Yuan remained silent again, not knowing what to answer. A couple of seconds later, he said that he must pursue his love and from now on he will compete with Xiao Gu. Lu Yuan said that he doesn't think he needs to prove anything. Just look at the gift he prepared for Jesun. Lu Yuan handed over some documents to Jesun and said that Zhao Group would be completely hers. Jesun asked completely. He handed over the documents and said that he apologized for having once left her. Jesun replied that she did not need it and she just wanted to return the Zhao Group to the right hands. Lu Yuan tore up the documents and said that then this means that the contract has expired and now she can get her company directly. Jesun thanked Lu Yuan, who replied with a smile that if something happened, she could always turn to him. Lu Yuan began to leave. Uncle and Aunt Zhao shouted after him that he had to clear things up and couldn't just leave. Xiao Gu smiled and asked Jesun to guess who he invited. The girl asked in surprise who. It was Jesun's parents. They burst into the office and asked to see my aunt and uncle. They were incredibly angry because of the false will, Jesun's parents did not live as well as they would like. Relatives attacked each other and began to forcefully sort things out. Jesun asked them to stop fighting because they are family after all. Xiao Gu handed over the official stamp of the Jesun company and said that this stamp would soon be hers. The girl took it in her hands and said that it was all thanks to her grandfather. Jesun smiled and mentally told herself that she would look after Zhao's group. Lu Yuan went outside at this time. He was terribly dissatisfied. He walked past the three brothers fighters we saw earlier. Lu Yuan became the new boss. They got into the car. Lu Yuan showed the photo to Xiao Gu Zonglong and asked him to get information about him. Jianglong was horrified. Wherever he goes, he deals with Xiao Gu. Lu Yuan asked if he knew him. Jianglong covered his face with his hands and said that even more. Jesun was already sitting in her new office. The secretary approached her and said that the company's products had been sold, 12 design studios had been stopped, and the main asset, clothing, had disappeared 2 years ago. Xiao Gu looked at the office and noticed that even his grandfather's antiques had turned into fakes. Xiao Gu said that it is not surprising that the only wealth left is $50 million. Jesun asked how much it would cost to return all this. The secretary replied, about 60 million. Jesun understood why her uncle wanted to sell this company. Xiao Gu smiled and said that Jesun could help here. He handed her some kind of check. Jesun said that managing a company is different from managing something else, and 18 million will not solve the problem. The secretary noticed that Jesun is good at business. Xiao Gu pointed to the check again and asked Jesun to look at the amount of money written on the check. There was 60 million yuan. The system voice reported that the exchange was successful and the feedback amounted to 17 million yuan. Jesun asked in surprise where Xiao Gu got that kind of money. Xiao Gu was worried and said that Jesun doesn't have to talk about this because it's his responsibility as a husband. Jesun thanked him, then Xiao Gu said that he needed to go to campus. He said goodbye to Jesun. The secretary thought that Xiao Gu is really a woman's dream. Jesun handed the document to the secretary and asked to conclude a new agreement with Xiao Gu as the chairman and Jesun as the leader. At that moment, Jesun's parents burst into the office. The father said that he wants to be chairman, and her mother kept swearing at Xiao Gu and saying that Jesun could not appoint him as chairman. Jesun resolutely said that this was grandfather's wish, because he left the company to her and Xiao Gu. Mom strictly stated that this does not mean that she must make Xiao Gu the chairman of the company, because he can just be a worker, because he is an outsider. Jesun said in disappointment that she didn't think that her parents still considered Xiao Gu an outsider. Jesun stated that if everyone and her parents could give her 60 million yuan, then she would make them the chairman of the company, and showed the receipt from Xiao Gu. The parents were outraged and asked how dare she say that. Jiasun again told them to leave. Xiao Gu was walking to campus at this time. Lu Xian, one of the flowers of the school in Haiken, walked past him. The girl deliberately tripped and fell right into Xiao Ji's arms. He caught her and asked if everything was okay. The girl said she didn't feel very well. Xiao Gu offered to walk her home. He remembered that she seemed to be Gao Feng's girlfriend and asked her about it. The girl replied that she did not want to discuss it. The guy said okay. Then he looked at the girl and thought that this was all suspicious. They approached the Wangwang Hotel. The girl said that she was staying here in room No. 605. As they walked, the girl seemed to accidentally touch Xiao Ji's hand with her chest. They entered the room. The guy laid the girl on the sofa. Lu Xian pulled the guy towards her so that they ended up together on the sofa. The guy accidentally touched the girl's breast and quickly pulled it away, saying that he didn't mean it. The girl hugged the guy by the neck and told him not to be shy. Lu Xian looked at the guy and said that she didn't mind at all. Xiao Gu jumped back and asked what she meant. The girl laughed and said she was just joking. She asked the guy if he wanted coffee. Xiao Gu asked if she was doing well. The girl returned with coffee and began coughing, pretending to be sick. Her cough caused her to spill coffee on Xiao Ji's pants. She apologized, sitting down on her knees in front of the guy, and said that she could clean his pants. Xiao Gu grabbed her hand and angrily asked where the bathroom was. He could handle it himself. Xiao Gu stood in the bathroom bare-chested and dried his t-shirt with a hairdryer. He thought what tricks the girl would play next. Xiao Gu turned around. The sound of wet steps was heard. Lu Xian approached Xiao Gu. She was practically naked. Only a towel covered her body. Xiao Gu panicked and asked what she was doing. The girl took off her towel in one motion. Xiao Gu yelled for her to wait. He told her that her towel had fallen and Lu Xian had better put it back on. The girl asked Xiao Gu if he was ready. The girl screamed and started calling for help. Xiao Gu was surprised. Someone on the other side of the door suggested breaking down the bathroom door. Only now did Xiao Gu realize that the girl did it on purpose. Gao Feng and a couple of guys with bats broke down the door to the bathroom, but they didn't find anyone inside. The bathroom window was open. Gao Feng hit the wall with his fist. He shouted to the guys to quickly follow him and not let him take his woman. At that moment, Xiao Gu put on a bathroom curtain to cover his naked body and, taking the girl by the arm, ran away from the hotel. Xiao Gu said in disappointment that Lu Xian had simply fooled him. The girl asked where he was taking her. Xiao Gu jumped from building to building and replied that she would soon find out. The guy climbed the tallest building in the city and left Lu Xian naked on top of the building. Xiao Gu said that she deserved it. The girl screamed that it was high and cold there and she really wanted to go home, but Xiao Gu didn't listen to her. He had already jumped from the roof of the building and was flying down. He looked like some kind of hero. An old man fell down near the building. People just surrounded him but no one tried to help. Xiao Gu noticed this. He jumped onto the nearest building and began to watch. He asked himself whether he should help his grandfather. He touched the necklace and asked about the balance. The system replied that Shenhao Xiao Ji's banana is 1701 million. Yelling that he would save Grandpa, Xiao Gu quickly flew down. Xiao Gu landed calmly. The people around were shocked. The guy approached his grandfather and asked what happened to him. The people around him heatedly discussed Xiao Gu. Grandfather asked Xiao Gu if he is, but Xiao Gu replied that they had just met. His grandfather didn't even know him. The old man said that his paralysis would return and Xiao Gu hit him in the stomach. The guy felt awkward. He didn't even notice how he hit his grandfather. Xiao Gu tried to carefully lay his grandfather on the asphalt and apologized for accidentally hitting him in the stomach. Grandfather began to cook because he had finally reached the end of his life. Xiao Gu nervously offered to take him to the hospital. The old man began to say that he had been sick since childhood and the doctors told him that he could die from any fall. The old man asked to take him home. He wants to see his granddaughter before he dies. Xiao Gu promised his grandfather that he would cure him. Xiao Gu at that time was in the possession of Fu Zhaozhao. He asked to sell him the miracle medicine Xiaodan. The girl didn't want to give medicine to other people, but she still agreed after Xiao Ji's persuasion. The voice of the system reported a purchase of 1 million. The balance was 16 million, but the system added a reward of 22 million. Now the balance is 38.01 million. Xiao Gu was surprised by such a big reward. Xiao Gu showed his grandfather a huge pill and promised him that the old man would feel much better after it. Grandfather looked at the tablet with caution. Xiao Shi shoved it directly into his grandfather's mouth, saying that it was really useful. Grandfather stood up and asked for water. The people around him were shocked that grandfather was able to get up. Grandfather also realized after some time that he was standing. He realized that nothing hurt him anymore and even tried to jump. He approached Xiao Gu and asked what his name was. His grandfather was ready to pay him. The police arrived at the place. Some girls said that Xiao Gu was a pervert and was hiding naked. Xiao Gu mentally objected because he was in underwear. The guy realized that he had to leave the place quickly. The police girl screamed that she knew it was Xiao Gu, so there was no reason to run away. The next action takes place at the opening of a sewing business. Jason solemnly led the opening and Xiao Gu stood nearby and helped. The crowd of people who were at the opening began to clap. Lu Yuan got out of the car. People immediately noticed him. The leopard handed a bouquet of flowers to Lu Yuan and wished him good luck. Lu Yuan approached Jason. He said that the opening was wonderful and handed the girl a bouquet of flowers and some keys. These were the keys to a Porsche 911. People were shocked and all the girls were jealous of Jason. Xiao Gu looked angrily at Lu Yuan and said that his wife did not need gifts from him. Lu Yuan said that he knows that Jason always rents a car. The girl felt ashamed. She didn't think anyone knew about it. Jason replied that she simply did not have the opportunity to buy a new car. Lu Yuan smugly replied that he knew that Xiao Gu couldn't afford to buy his wife a car, so Lu Yuan did it. People in the crowd felt sorry for Jason because she was married to a poor man. But Jason publicly stated that she could not accept the gift from Lu Yuan. Another cool car pulled up to the task. Everyone around immediately noticed. It was a Ferrari from a limited collection around the world. There are only 449 of them. Such a car is not affordable for the average citizen. Not everyone can afford it because it costs 22 million yuan. A guy got out of the car. His name is Blade. He began to quickly walk towards Xiao Gu. Blade handed the document to Xiao Gu with the words that his car has arrived. The guy just needs to sign. Lu Yuan was in despair. Xiao Gu outdid him. Xiao Gu didn't quite understand what was happening, so he asked the guy what it meant. Blade replied that Xiao Gu saved his father on Kanai Street yesterday. Xiao Gu remembered that grandfather. He understood why the reward was 22 million. Xiao Gu scratched the back of his head and apologized to Blade if he was rude yesterday. The guy took the document and handed it to his wife. He gave Xiao Gu a document to sign so that the car would belong to her. The crowd cheered, but the girl refused Xiao Ji's gift and said that she could not accept it. Xiao Gu straightened Jason's hair behind her ear and said that she is already the president of the company, so she should always look great. The girl stood on her tiptoes and approached the guy. She kissed him on the cheek as a sign of gratitude. Xiao Gu melted all over. Lu Yuan angrily threw the bouquet to the leopard. Xiao Gu, smiling, asked Blade how they knew that Xiao Gu needed a car. Blade replied that his family sells cars. Suddenly some men appeared. They claimed that the clothing company owed them wages. Jason indignantly told them to shut up and stop talking nonsense. The man grinned and said that if she wanted them to shut up, she had to pay. The men laughed. They were clearly pleased with themselves. Suddenly someone threw the microphone. It was Xiao Gu. He hit the microphone directly in the mouth of the main guy and asked him to close his mouth. The man spat out the microphone and furiously ordered his guys to kill Xiao Gu. Blade was about to start a fight, but Xiao Gu stopped him. He said this is usually the case for him. A bunch of guys with bats were intent on finishing off Xiao Gu. The guy confidently told the guys to attack and gave him his hand, then he ran towards them. With a couple of moves, Xiao Gu knocked out each of them. Not even 5 minutes had passed before all the guys were lying down and could not move, and at the center of everything was Xiao Gu. Jason PDA has always admired her husband, and Blade commented positively on Xiao Ji's skills. Xiao Gu approached the main guy and asked who hired them. The guy angrily asked, does Xiao Gu really think that he will just say that in life? Xiao Gu hit the man because he refused to talk. He then picked him up by the scruff of the neck and swung his hand for a second blow. The violent method worked. The man admitted that his boss he hired the guys to cause a commotion here. Wang Zan, competitor of Jason Garment Factory, he got out of the car. The girl noted that they must compete fairly in doing business. Why is he trying to put a spoke in their wheels? Wang Zan was furious. He said that he had been trying to destroy their clothing business for 3 years, and now he almost succeeded. and then Jason appears. Jason extended her hand to Wang Zan and said that if we sit down and talk calmly, we can discuss cooperation. Wang Zan grinned. He said that this is just the beginning because he will pay people to come here every day and create problems for the factory. Xiao Gu stood up for Jason and said that he would beat him until he coughed up his teeth. Wang Jian said that he would call the police if Xiao Gu hit him, but suddenly someone interrupted their conversation saying that Wang Jian is arrogant. Blade walked closer to Wang Zan and took off his glasses. The man recognized Blade. Wang Zan quickly apologized and hurried out of there. Blade ordered him not to disturb Xiao Gu anymore, otherwise he knows what the consequences will be. Blade reported that his grandfather said that he wanted to meet Xiao Gu. Xiao Gu got behind the wheel of his new cool car. Jason offered to return the car. Xiao Gu commented that this car is beautiful. Xiao Gu said that this is their car now, so he can take Jason to any place. Jason asked where Xiao Gu got so much money. Xiao Gu said that he met a rich woman and she showed him how to get rich. Jason asked him again. Then Jason indignantly asked what other rich woman had Xiao Gu really found a replacement for her. Xiao Gu accelerated and rushed at great speed along the city roads. Xiao Gu was stopped by the police for speeding. The girl was surprised that she was meeting Xiao Gu again for some minor violations. She turned to him suspiciously and reminded him that Xiao Gu walked naked through the streets yesterday and today he was speeding. Is everything okay with him? Xiao Gu said that she is a criminal police officer, so it is not her responsibility to monitor traffic. The girl said that she is a police officer, so when she sees violations, she is obliged to prevent them. Xiao Gu nervously replied that he had just recently bought a car, so he was a little excited. Jason went out to talk to the policewoman. The girl asked if Xiao Gu was really naked yesterday. The police officer replied that this scene really happened last night and there seemed to be something wrong with Xiao Gu. Jason lowered her head and said that Xiao Gu was her fiancé. The policeman said that it was not surprising and that she had an offer for the girl. She began to explain that his son-in-law was depressed. Yesterday he walked naked, today he drives at high speed, and tomorrow it is unknown what else will happen. The police officer advised Jason to pay attention to her husband's mental health, and if Xiao Gu violates something again, he must pay a fine. Xiao Gu drove the car. Jason said that the Zhao family regrets him. Xiao Gu, not understanding, asked what this meant. Jason replied that today he would need to pick up Diao from school and get ready for dinner with his family. Xiao Gu drove up to the school where Diao Zhao studied. He got out of the car. The girls at school were absolutely delighted with him and his car. The girls immediately attacked Xiao Gu with questions. Does he have a girlfriend or WeChat, for example? At that time, Diao was rehearsing a cheerleading dance with her friends. She was informed her son-in-law had come. Her friends became interested in Xiao Gu. Diao Zhao asked what he was doing here. Xiao Gu said that today there is a family dinner at home. Jason asked him to pick Diao up from school. Diao turned away and said that she didn't have time. One of the school students explained that they were preparing for the games, so to pick her up they needed permission from teacher Chao. Xiao Gu looked at one of the guys running around the field and asked if it was him. Diao Zhao said to run after him and if Xiao Gu can catch up with him, then Diao is ready to go home with him. Xiao Gu accepted the challenge. Diao's friends reminded him that teacher Chao is a champion runner, and it will be difficult for Xiao Gu to catch up with him. But Xiao Gu resolutely fled. He was actually able to catch up with teacher Chao. Xiao Gu, while running, decided to ask him a question. Chao was surprised that someone could catch up with him. He decided that no one could overtake him, so he accelerated. Teacher Chao took first place in running in Haiken. No one can overtake him. However, Xiao Gu did it easily and asked if he could take Diao Zhao home now. Chao was very disappointed that someone could outrun him while running. In addition, Xiao Gu turned around and ran backwards. Xiao Gu asked again if he could take Diao. Diao's friends were delighted with Xiao Gu and wondered why she calls her son-in-law trash. Teacher Chao fell. He did not believe that this was possible and began to come up with excuses. Chao said that he would let Diao Zhao go if Xiao Gu beat him in another game. The standard is the long jump. Chao appointed another teacher, Wang, as his representative. Teacher Wang is a national long jump athlete and has won many medals. The guys began to compete. Already in the jump, Wang looked at Xiao Gu and realized that he would most likely lose. Xiao Gu even managed to jump over the entire jumping field. The teachers were shocked and the students were jubilant. Diao Zhao looked at them silently. Another standard is high jump. This time they nominated Teacher Gao. Teacher Gao proudly announced that he has won many international championships and is famous in this field. Xiao Gu transferred whether he is sure that he wants to fight him. Xiao Gu jumped so high that everyone had to raise their heads up as much as possible. Xiao Gu realized that he had reached 900 meters. He was proud of himself. Everyone watched Xiao Gu with their mouths open. Xiao Gu landed. All three teachers immediately bowed to Xiao Gu and acknowledged their position. Chao allowed Xiao Gu to take Diao Zhao. Diao Zhao and Xiao Gu walked out into the schoolyard. Diao asked how Xiao Gu did it. The guy replied that not everything in this world can be bought with money. Suddenly a school student appeared and ran after Xiao Gu. The girl caught up with him and asked if Xiao Gu wanted to repeat it somehow. The guy looked at her nervously. Diao Zhao took Xiao Ji's hand and said that she objected. Jiasun turned around and told Xiao Gu that it was time for them to go. Her friends wondered why she had changed so much. The girls decided that she specifically said what a bad son-in-law she had so as not to reveal his abilities. A gang of teenagers drove up to the school building. They were all bright and colorful. Diao Zhao asked them to leave. The guys were not going to listen to her and said that there was no turning back. In one move, Xiao Gu knocked out a bunch of teenagers. Xiao Gu stopped and asked the guy who pestered Diao Zhao if he wanted to leave before Xiao Gu hit him. Xiao Gu called the guys weaklings and moved on. Diao Zhao wondered when Xiao Gu became so strong. The guy got on the motorcycle and said that Xiao Gu would not run away from him. Xiao Gu slightly opened the window of his car and said that the guy had better stay where he was because he wouldn't be able to chase him. Xiao Gu stepped on the gas and the car immediately disappeared from sight. The guy fell to his knees. He wondered if his existence had any meaning if he was completely useless. Diao Zhao asked where Xiao Gu rented this car. It's insanely cool. Xiao Gu replied that he gave this painting to her sister. Diao Zhao didn't believe Xiao Gu. Xiao Gu and Diao drove up to the restaurant where a family dinner was scheduled. Diao Zhao asked Xiao Gu not to talk much and just eat. Brother Wang Dadong came out to meet them. He was happy to see Diao Zhao. When Xiao Gu tried to address him, Wang Dadong's face changed and he looked at him arrogantly. Wang Dadong led them to the table and said that finally all the cousins were gathered. Xiao Gu greeted everyone, but no one greeted him. Xiao Gu became depressed. Jiasun took Xiao Ji's hand and put her in her seat. Wang Bayu said that there is one place left and it is for Jiasun, because she is a real family member. Jiasun replied that in her opinion, Xiao Gu is the most suitable person to sit here. Xiao Gu thanked Jiasun. Wang Bayu asked why she was more interested in Xiao Gu. He said that a girl should learn to give priorities. Jiasun's mother stood up and told her daughter to sit down because she was the hero of their family. Wang Feng noted that he heard that Jiasun took over the company. All the relatives laughed. Xiao Gu was ashamed and embarrassed. He told Jiasun that she had better take this place. The girl refused and suddenly sat on the guy's lap. All the guests at the table were embarrassed. Someone shouted that this was inappropriate. Jiasun drivers asked to bring a spare chair. Finally, all the relatives sat down at the table and began to eat. Wang Dadong shared that he became a manager. Jiasun's mother was delighted. Wang Xia also shared his achievements. He said that his store received an emerald worth 22 million yuan. Wang Feng grinningly invited Xiao Gu to work for Wang Xia. Zhao Shan reproached Xiao Gu and said that he should imitate the success of other relatives. Hooligans who had previously tried to ruin the opening ceremony of a garment factory burst into the restaurant. Jiasun's mother threatened the boys with death. Wang Dadong asked the man if Mr. Wang also wants a place, then they will add it immediately. The man hit Wang Dadong and realized that this was the same boy who ignored President Wang and did not want to give him a place. Wang Dadong asked them not to be angry and said that everyone would leave now. He ordered all family members to leave the premises unless they wanted him to lose his job. Wang Feng became noticeably nervous and agreed to leave because Director Wang was an important person in the East. Xiao Gu called Wang Jian's subordinates over and asked them to let Wang's family apologize. Wang Dadong shouted at Xiao Gu furiously. At this moment, Wang Dadong was hit by Wang Jian's subordinate, saying how dare he talk to Xiao Gu like that. He kicked Wang Dadong again and all the relatives were surprised why Wang Zan's subordinate addressed Xiao Gu so respectfully. Wang Jian's subordinate fell to his knees in front of Xiao Gu and said that he didn't know that the guy would also be at this event. Xiao Gu asked where Wang Jian was and asked him to come in. Wang Dadong was outraged by the way Xiao Gu addressed such people. Wang Jian joyfully entered the room. Wang Dadong asked not to pay attention to Xiao Gu because he is just trash. Wang Jian hit Wang Dadong and said that he was trash. Wang Jian apologized to Xiao Gu. All family members were simply in shock. Wang Dadong was the most shocked. Xiao Gu told Wang Jian that he should apologize immediately because he scared his wife. Wang Jian bowed and apologized to Jessen. Wang Jian asked how Xiao Gu knew Blade. The guy replied that he saved his grandfather. Wang Jian realized that he should never offend Xiao Gu. Wang Jian said that today he would pay for all the food and also asked to open a bottle with 82 luphites for Xiao Gu to bring for another 36 luphites. All the relatives were surprised since when Xiao Gu became such a big man. Master Bao entered the room. Wang Xia rushed to him and asked if Master Bao was here for him. Wang Xia asked Master Bao if his jade plate was approved. He thought that now he would show his superiority especially to Xiao Gu. Master Bao asked who it was. He saw Jessen and immediately asked where Xiao Gu was. Jessen pointed her hand at Xiao Gu, and the guy replied that he was here. Master Bao rushed to Xiao Gu and said that he had finally found him. Wang Xia was at a loss. Master Bao handed VIP a ticket to the Jade Record exhibition that will be held on Sunday. Wang Xia was simply extremely disappointed and envious. Relatives noticed that even the giants of the ancient industry respect Xiao Gu. The guy happily accepted the invitation. Wang Xia thought that he would probably go there at his own expense. Everyone went out into the street and began to disperse to their cars. Wang Dadong took out the keys to his car and ostentatiously boasted. Zhao Shan recognized this car as a new Mercedes-Benz. Wang Dadong proudly said that a successful person needs a luxury car. Jessen's mother grabbed Wang Feng's car and said that it was probably a car from Germany. Jessen told her mother that it was a BMW Brilliance. The woman felt ashamed. Wang Feng chuckled and said that it was unlikely that Xiao Gu was good enough to know some people, and Xiao Gu will never be able to afford a BMW or Mercedes-Benz. Xiao Gu sighed and said that Wang Feng is right. He won't afford a Mercedes-Benz because Xiao Gu drives a Ferrari. The guy took out the keys and grinned. Xiao Gu stood proudly by his car. All the relatives stood with their mouths open. They arrived at the house. Jessen said that Xiao Gu was very cool today and all the relatives were surprised. Xiao Gu grinned and asked if there would be any reward for him for this. Jessen blushed and reached out to kiss Xiao Gu. The guy grinned and asked if he would only get a kiss. One kiss is not enough. Jessen looked away and blushed and replied that it all depends on Xiao Ji's wishes, but suddenly Xiao Gu shouted killer. Behind the girl there really was a guy with a knife and wearing a mask. He shouted that he would kill Jessen.